coach. And I was laughing because I'm outside and I was saying to Claire that it looks like this side of my face is like the good side, like your good conscience. And then this side of my face in the shadow is like the evil conscience. So depending on our conversation today, I might like highlight this side. If I have a snide comment, I might highlight this side, the shady side here. But I'm really excited today to have Claire with us. Claire, in fact, I'm going to let her introduce herself. But we were talking through who could we interview that's done really well at having stable business and interview to add value to all you guys. And Claire immediately came to mind as someone that would be really good at this. And it comes from a lot of techniques that she does and a lot of tracking she does that we'll talk about today. But before we get started, Claire, I would love for you first to say who you are, where you're located for referrals, and then also what your role is. So location, name, role, and then we'll share one of your success stories and then we'll get started.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Claire, and I'm here in Springfield, Missouri. So we would love referrals if you have people moving to the area. I work for Adam Grady. Our team name is Grady Real Estate. I'm here in Springfield, and I've been with his team 2.5 years, and I run his ISA department right now.
Yeah, and tell everybody, because they can hear I run his ISA department, and it can feel like, oh, well, she's got a different role than me, or she's got more experience. So tell everyone where you started just 2.5 years ago, and then where you are today, how many people are on your team.
Yeah, so Adam and I talked about this yesterday evening, and we had a little laugh. And when I started 2.5 years ago, I had a computer that had somebody else's name on it and an old desk phone that you had to hold like this.
Oh yeah, the neck.
When you made phone calls.
Yeah.
So that's literally where we started. I had, there were 0 systems. I was the first ISA. And in working with you and the team, we now have, I have 3 ISAs and a 4th that's starting in a couple weeks.
Yay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I still do some lead gen. I have my own set of appointment goals and things like that. There's still lead gen for me in there. And then I am now obviously coaching my ISAs as well.
Right. So Claire, and it's been really cool, if I can just brag on you for a minute, Claire, it's been really awesome to watch Claire start as a new ISA. And I can remember those early coaching calls. It was all centered around how to talk to people and how to structure things. And I've watched her thinking change. And now to see her step into a leadership role, I think the coolest thing about working with Claire is to see the mindset shifts that have happened. Things, hard conversations that used to have like mindset stuff about. Now it's just like, well, we got to talk about this because it's healthy to talk about stuff and have this healthy. Yeah. So it's been really cool to watch you grow over time in all areas, but especially mindset. So I would love for you to share real quick a win that you've had, because it is significant. Yeah. So Claire recently had a baby. Yay. How old now?
She's 9 months.
9 months. Mm-hmm. Whoa. It feels like this was just yesterday.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
January.
Yeah. But what's amazing is Claire went out on maternity leave and some really cool stuff still happened in her business. So tell everybody about that.
Yeah. So to start out is I really had a goal to make $100,000 this year. That was my goal. It was one of my 5-year goals, and I really wanted to hit it this year. And when I really looked at having my baby, my baby was coming whether I was ready or not. And so I scaled back my goal so that I knew I could still hit my goal and have time. I chose to have that time away with my family. And I did a lot of prep as far as, I was really strategic about hitting my numbers. I knew what number I had to hit every day to build my pipeline.
Pause real quick. We're going to talk about that more in a minute, but she just said, and this is really important, I knew my numbers that I had to hit every day. So super clear, and that's a key factor. So keep going, but I had to make sure they heard that.
Yeah. So I had a number I knew I had to hit, and I sacrificed a little bit that year. I worked a little bit extra. I took more on call time. Whatever I had to do, I would even say sometimes I used my team. I've asked my team, hey, who can I call? I did whatever I could to get as many contacts as possible. And I hired really great people. So when I was on maternity leave, I had killer talent here pushing us through. And now as we look through this year, so I took my time off, I had my baby, all that good stuff. I'm on track to hit my original goal that I scaled back. So I hit the goal I set, but I not only hit that, I'm very, very close to hitting my extended goal.
Original goal. And that's with how much time off?
I took 10 weeks off.
10 weeks off.
Plus vacation time. So I've had a good 12, 13 weeks off this year.
Okay. So think about that. That's like having a whole quarter. Think of that in the term of 3 months. Mm-hmm. So what Claire is saying is her original goal that she set before knowing baby is coming, she actually is going to hit it and perhaps even surpass it with having an additional 10 weeks off work that she wasn't expecting. Mm-hmm. So it's really impressive. It's like you said, it speaks to your team. But that's part of why I wanted you all to have context as to why Claire is on this call talking to you all about having a stable business, despite what other people might say would cause an up and down. A lot of people would hear maternity leave and think, oh, well, then my business is going to tank for those couple months. It's just what's going to happen. And guys, depending on the circle of people you're around, they might agree with you. Mm-hmm. And I'm here and Claire's here to elevate the thinking, right? Like it does not mean that because of a leave of absence or because of Christmas or New Year's or Thanksgiving, which is where we're coming right now, that your business has to take a dip. In fact, many times you can see your business increase or be equal to your best months. I know my first December, Haro kept telling me it's not going to change. Just keep doing the right activities. And I was shocked. My December was equal to my top month of the year, which was August. Mm-hmm. And it blew my mind and then changed my thinking. So if you're on the call and you're like how I was at first, where that mindset's there of, oh, because of this, the business will be a roller coaster. Mm-hmm. It does not have to be that way. So Claire, let's start with what are some of the things that you track to make sure that you know what you need to do for your business to stay steady?
Yeah.
And everybody write this down.
So this might sound really basic, and I would like to add that it's not tracking it, it's tracking it consistently.
Oh, that's good.
So, right, our tracking is only as good as our dedication to putting that number.
I love that. Our tracking is only as good as our dedication to putting it in. That's really good.
Yeah. So I track dials and contacts, appointments set, appointments held, appointments signed, and appointments closed. Those are the basic pieces. I will say, as we've built the business, we're more clear on what we call an appointment. You know, what we call an appointment now looks a little different than what it did 2 years ago. We're a little, we do more consults than, show me houses, and we're just really more clear and purposeful about who we spend our time with. Yeah. So those things change, but it's every day, every morning. The first thing I do in the morning is I put my numbers in the system from the day before, every day, no exceptions.
Perfect. So consistency. And part of why this matters, everybody, because I just know how I used to think. I used to think, why does tracking, like, how does this impact my day-to-day life? Which now that I know more about it, I'm like, what a funny question. But it's because it's all math, right? Like success is really, honestly, it's a math formula. Mm-hmm. So if for simple math, I need 75 contacts to ultimately earn a closing, and you want 100 closings this year, then we can do the math to figure out how many contacts you need. You need 7,500 contacts and you will have 100 closings. So that's part of how you can take time off and not worry about business. Because as long as you make sure you have 7,500 contacts, and guys, know your number, don't take that to the bank, right? But 75 contacts on average is what will earn someone a closing if you're well scripted. And that's the key. So you can take 10 weeks off throughout the year, or like Claire, almost 3 months total when you add it all together, and still hit the goal because it's about your numbers. And that's one thing I love about this role, is it's more about your activity than necessarily the hours you put in. It's what is the activity you're doing. Sometimes you work overtime. Sometimes you can work undertime. It's just, are you getting in the contacts it takes? So I just wanted to add that in that's why the tracking matters so very much. Mm-hmm. By the way, as we're going, if you guys have questions, type it into the chat box. We're happy to field those for you. Okay, so you tracked those numbers. What would you say are the numbers you look at the most on your daily, like the leading indicators, meaning if I do this leading activity, it'll lead in a lagging result?
Yeah, I look at contacts and appointments the most.
Appointment set?
Appointment set, yeah, and it translates to held. We have the most control over setting the appointment, talking to people, setting the appointment, and the appointment showing up. So those are the ones I focus on the most.
Right. Okay. So contacts and appointment set. Perfect.
Yeah.
And then what are some of the techniques that you use this time of year? Because part of it is knowing your numbers, but then part of it is also having skill. So if I'm on the phone and someone says, oh, I just want to wait till after the holidays, and I say, okay, bye. That is going to make an uphill. I could still hit goal, yet I'm going to have to increase my contacts a lot now because my skill is not there.
Yeah.
So it's always either skill, contacts, and they're like levers. Skill goes up, your contacts can probably go down. Your skill goes down, contacts need to go up. So what are some of the skills and techniques you use, particularly with those holiday objections?
So for the holiday objections, it's digging deep. So if somebody says, I don't want, I don't remember what you said, wait till after the holidays, why is that important to you? There could be a very important reason that it has nothing to do with the holidays, that makes it a great time.
Right.
But we don't know without asking. So, we always try to do 3 questions before we hang up the phone, make sure we're asking good questions, and then continue to follow up. If you feel like there's something there and you just weren't able to get to it that day, don't wait a month to call them back. Call them back next week. Tell them, hey, I was thinking about you, just wanted to check in. Is this still really what you want to do? And we talk about it some more.
Yeah. Well, and I think it could take us, and I see the questions in the box. I'll get to those in just a second. I think it would be worth us taking a second to dive deeper on what you said about asking 3 questions deep. So I want to ask a question to everyone in chat right now. And Claire, hold your answer for just a second. When someone says, I want to wait until January, all of us have a filter or past experiences that inform what we think about that. I want you to type into the chat box. I want it to blow up right now. Why do you think people are saying, I want to wait till January? Because we're going to prove a point here real quick. How much of this is tied to assumption? So I'll give it just a second. And then Claire, get ready. We'll role play. I didn't tell Claire we were going to do that. But she's good. She's good. She leads ISA. She's got this. Okay, we're waiting for the chat. Our moderator's probably like, all this stuff. So, it's a bit delayed. That's what's going on. So while we're waiting for people to type in, Claire, let me just ask you, what's the number one reason? Like, what's your default when someone says, I want to wait till January? What's your reason you think?
I typically, it's just nobody wants to move in the cold weather with the holidays. Nobody wants to move their Christmas presents in the middle of Christmas.
Yeah. And actually, that's what someone else just said, not wanting to deal with the hassle with bad weather. The holidays are hectic. My immediate go-to is, what if they're hosting the holidays and so they don't want showings while their family's in town? That was something I assumed. But it could be a lot of things, right? Someone else just said, I don't want to move in the winter. I'm too busy. The summer market would be better. So notice all those different answers just from one statement. I want to wait until January. That's it. And look how many different assumptions popped up. It also, another assumption could be, well, maybe they think they'll have a bigger down payment, or maybe they want to use their tax refund. I mean, it could be anything, guys. And so what we have to be really careful of is not to assume. So Claire, let's just demonstrate that for a minute. And the idea here, guys, is we're going to teach you together. How do you dig at least 3 deep with someone so that you're not taking their initial answer and assuming when really their true objection might be something very different. So Claire, would you like to be the agent, or would you like me to be the agent?
You can be the agent.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and let's just assume we're already on the phone. We have some rapport, and go ahead and give me the objection of wanting to wait.
I'd really like to just wait till after the New Year's.
Okay. Well, I'm really glad that you told me that, Claire. What is it that is important to you about waiting till after the holidays?
I'll just have more time at that point.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about your timing and what that looks like.
I graduate college at the end of December, and so
Okay.
it's really more. I'm in housing until then, and so it's just not a priority.
Okay, I got you. So what you're saying is you want to buy a home after you graduate from school, which by the way, congratulations.
Thank you.
Until after you graduate from school in December, and that's because you're in the college housing now. Come January, you will need a place to live. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. All right, pause there. By the way, I was not expecting that at all. So again, speaks to assumptions. So in this case, I would actually say this is a hot lead. She actually genuinely wants to move within the next 3 months. And you know what? I actually get it. I see why she wouldn't want to move until after January or in January because she's a student. And that makes a lot of sense. So in this case, we would set a follow-up plan or depending on your schedule, go ahead and meet and get her set up on some houses. Just depending on your, if you have buyers coming out of your ears, you might want to wait till November, December to meet her. If you have time now, my cutoff to work with a buyer is usually 3 months. If they're going to do something within 3 months, let's meet. Sellers, it's usually 6 months, right? Now, what if, what's another common one you run into, Claire, where people, it's the beneath the surface reason people want to wait till after the holidays?
You know, the money thing, I get a lot, honestly. Tax refund, there's a job change. You know, it's typically not the holidays. There's something happening in the spring that makes it more appealing. And sometimes you find out they're just not really motivated, right?
Yeah.
All of those questions are qualifying questions, and not, it doesn't mean everybody's qualified, but when we ask them, now we know who to spend our time with.
Yeah. I like how you just said that. It is okay if not everybody is serious. Remember, guys, for most of us, if we have 2 good, solid appointments we set per day that are like we've actually screened them, we will hit or surpass our income goals. So 2 in a day. That means everybody except for one person could reject you before lunch, and everyone except for one person could reject you after lunch, and you're still really successful. So let's go through what are some of the common solutions for common holiday objections. By the way, we're hitting this topic hard in the ISA coaching program starting in November. So some of you on this call, you show up to a lot of the webinars that are free. If you get value out of these, I want you to just think through the value you would get out of weekly 1-hour webinars. Plus, you have a one-on-one coach that works with you directly. And I know that's how Claire and I know each other. Because there's so much and we're squeezing it into 30 minutes. So if you want to know more about the coaching program, hop over to isamapscoaching.com. There's a button that says talk to a coach. And that basically is saying, hey, I want to know more about the program just to see if it's the right fit for me. Okay. So go to isamapscoaching.com, talk to a coach, and then we'll get in touch with you. You can also email me at mapscoachanna@gmail.com. So we're going to hit real quick. What are some of the common objections? So one would be, I have people coming over and I don't want showings the week of Christmas. So Claire, what's a good response you have for that one?
The week of Christmas. You know, my typical response is always, you know, let's meet and talk about what that would look like and how we can schedule around your family.
Yeah. And there you go, schedule around your family.
Yeah, you know, I really try to leave it open to interpretation because at the end of the day, once they sign paperwork with us, they're our client, and we're going to do whatever we need to do to help them sell their house and, you know, continue to live in the house. So we can make it work with them. And I try to just leave everything really like coming from contribution, and let's just sit down and talk about it and see.
And note that Claire said sign paperwork. So we got agency agreements, guys. Claire's been really successful and we got agency agreements. The other thing is to remember, and I want everyone to write this down, is objections are either one of 2 things ultimately. Ultimately, it's either a lack of education or a lack of motivation. If they're not motivated, then there's really nothing we can do about that, right? If you called me today, I love you. I love ISAs. And you're not going to set an appointment with me. I have zero motivation to move. And there's nothing we can do about that. If they're motivated, but they're waiting, it is likely a lack of education. So you got to think through what's the objection and what's the education that solves it. So you could say, and know your area. I know here in South Carolina, we would say in the appointment center, you can actually block out dates and say no showings allowed on these dates. So what this would do for you, Claire, is allow us to list your home, which would get you to Fresno so you can live closer to your family, but not worry about having showings during those specific dates. Would that work for you? A lot of people don't know that you can block certain dates. So that could solve it. The other thing, guys, is to remember to use their motivation to overcome these objections, because if their motivation is high, being able to point out to them, hey, if I could get you to wherever, California, by Christmas, or have your house under contract so you're not worried about that through the holidays, you can close after Christmas. I know you really want to live near your family out in California, and you're tired of doing the FaceTime thing. You want to actually be with them in person. Would you be open to that? And that putting that motivation in front of them really helps.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking another one could be, what about if people say, well, Claire, I just don't want to close and actually move before Christmas. What's a good overcomer for that, or education?
Yeah. You in the contract, you can negotiate your close date. And if closing after a certain date is important, then we'll let everybody know up front that that's really important.
Yep.
To you.
Yep. Another one, and I don't know if we've talked about this together, Claire, but there's one for if they're concerned about the house being decorated for the holidays, or, I'm taking the house apart and then putting it back together. So I don't really know if now's the best time to list. What's a good one for that?
I actually never gotten that one. That's an interesting one. I would probably say that, well, what we could do if, again, motivation and everything, let's take pictures before you decorate, and we'll have it all ready to go. Or if they've already decorated, we'll retake inside pictures in the rooms that you have decorated afterwards to keep it really fresh.
And a lot of people don't know that, right? Is you can have your pictures taken 6 weeks before you list the house if you want to. It doesn't mean that people don't always know these things, right? Yeah. The other thing is, say that their house is already decorated. Maybe you're talking to this person and it is November 30th and they're like, oh, Davin, I see you on the call. Davin, I would love to list my house, but it's all decorated for Christmas. Well, in actuality, houses are much homier looking at Christmas time, and it can actually help the house sell because it is decorated for Christmas. The other thing to help people think through is you're already taking apart the house anyway. Literally, that was a squirrel, like a literal squirrel, not like, oh, squirrel. Like literally, I thought that there was a squirrel approaching my dog. Sorry, guys. But you can point out to them, you're already going in the attic anyway, putting things away, taking things out. Wouldn't it make sense to have our stager give you advice? You're already doing it. So why not just do it one time? And when you put your house back together, you have the stager's advice as you do it. It'll actually save you headache to do this at Christmas time, because again, you're taking the house apart anyway.
Yeah.
So I think the big message, again, in the time we have, we're not going to get through every holiday objection here. But I think the big message, guys, is ask questions to find out what's actually beneath the surface of what they're saying. It's not, well, I want to wait till after the holidays. That's not actually their objection. It's why do they want to wait till after the holidays? That'll tell you what their true objection is. And now you can actually address it. I do want to get to the chat box real quick. Let me see here. So we have a question. What type of leads would it include if it took 75 contacts to get one closing? That's a mixture of all together. So expired, for sale by owner, sphere, sign calls. Again, this really just comes down to tracking. So I want to be really clear when I say this. 75 contacts equals one closing. That is if you are really scripted and you have a 5% conversion rate contact to set, which, Claire, what's your current, I know you're not lead generating a ton, but you or your team, what's your contact to set right now?
So for the ISAs that have been in the business more than a year, it's 10. And then our new ISAs are 3 to 5. Yeah.
So new ISAs, 3 to 5, ones that have been scripted for a while, 10%. Guys, that's the power of coaching.
I do want to let people, I mean, that's not cold calling. I mean, you're getting inbound leads and side calls and things.
Yeah. But even if you're at 10%, or even 5% when you're new, even if you're circle calling and putting that into the mix, it's not going to pull you down to like 3% if you're at 10% Correct. Average. So yes. So again, guys, Claire's been in coaching since the beginning. I think we started your first week, right?
Yeah. First week.
Yeah. So that's the power of coaching. is it can get you to that level where you're converting. And I have to give a lot of credit to Claire, is we can coach through the program all that we want. It's what the people being coached do with it, right? It's the implementation. I love what you said earlier, Claire, is it's the tracking is great. It's what we do with the tracking and being consistent. And you're exactly right. So I have to give you mad credit there. Okay, so we have a question. Is there a difference in metrics for conversion in the winter versus conversion in the summer? So I think basically, do I need more contacts in the winter versus contacts in the summer? Claire, what's your answer for that one?
We track ours. I thought about this before our call today, and I don't think it changes. When you look, especially after you've been there a year, you have a year's worth of data, and it includes the winter months. Yeah, we do find the appointments go down a little bit, but our nurtures are really good. And then that translates, like as soon as January 1st hits as an ISA, it blows up here. January 1st, all of those after, because some of the holiday objections are valid, and things blow up, and our numbers are higher in the spring and summer, and it evens out what we do at the end of the year where it's just a little bit slower.
Yeah. Well, and what I'll say to that too is, even if, let's say everything around you stays the same. Let's say your skill stays the same, no decline or improvement. Mm-hmm. Your systems stay the same, no decline or improvement. All your lead sources stay the same. Everything stays the same. The team stays the same. Everything is the same. What we have to remember is the market around us can change. Mm-hmm. And so it's really important to constantly be tracking and look back at, okay, maybe for the year, my average is 10 contacts to set one appointment, but let me look back at the last 2 months. What is it the last 2 months? Because that can actually tell you, is a shift occurring? Mm-hmm. And it can help you catch a shift even before other people do. And I don't mean shift like, I just mean even a minor shift in the market. Because it might be that maybe you normally need 10 contacts to set one appointment. And maybe there are certain months where you need 20 contacts to set one appointment. Or maybe the market has shifted and now you need 30 contacts to set one appointment. I remember at one point I was at 8 contacts to set an appointment for 3 months in a row, 8 to 1 consistently, like week after week. Well, I had some changes go on. I wasn't on the phone quite as much, and I came back in a different, like the market had shifted a little bit. And when I came back, it was 30 to 1. So if I had entered thinking 8 to 1 is my number, I would have missed it by I'm 3 times off, over 3 times off the mark. So it's really, really imperative, guys, to not borrow other people's numbers, not even borrow like current, like Claire's active in the industry, I'm active in the industry, so let's compare apples to apples. Well, you're in different markets. So her market might be going up and your market might be going down, or vice versa. So I'm getting kind of passionate about this, but this is absolutely why you have to track and look at what's my yearly average just overall, but also let me take a chunk of time and look at, okay, what's my average the last 3 months? And if you suspected something's changing, or maybe you're like, something seems off, is the market shifting? And maybe my scripting's gotten off, maybe it's me, then maybe even look at, okay, what's it been the last 3 weeks? And piece apart your numbers. But the key there is you have to be tracking. Mm-hmm. Someone asked, what about an ISA with about a month of experience? I mean, that's really hard to answer just because it can be so different. I would say most new ISAs, and Claire, I'd love your answer in just a second. Your first month, you can expect to set around 10 appointments. You're building a pipeline. So and it's going to depend on your team. If you have leads raining down on you, that's going to be very different than if you're making a lot of outbound calls. So it's just going to depend on a lot of factors. And that's where, like in coaching, we can really get specific with you. But Claire, what would you say a new ISA is usually doing?
Yeah, on our 30-day, my only goal is for them to get 4, but I typically see 8 to 12. So 10, okay.
Yeah, right in that 10.
I'll typically get 2 or 3 a week.
Okay, yeah, 2 or 3. And then it can depend too on how well they stick. So I usually find the first month, you're usually setting around 10. Again, if you're getting a lot of leads, then I would raise the goal then, because if you're having lead after lead handed to you, we'll set more, right? So there's a lot of variables here, but they may not all show. Then your second month, you're usually setting more like that 15-ish mark, and your quality is getting better because you've learned who should I set an appointment with and who should I not set an appointment with. So the ones you're setting tend to go up in quality. And then by that 90th day, we should be striding to hit 1 per day or 20 per month. That's pretty industry standard. again, all this is tailored. I got real funky about talking about conversion rates on a group call, because what I don't want is for people to say, well, I heard this on a webinar, so it's what I should do. Or I heard it on a webinar, so it's what my ISA should do. This is so customized to your team, your lead sources. There's a lot of factors. But the one thing that is consistent, no matter what market you're in, what your market's doing, where you live, how long you've been in the role, track how many contacts it takes for you to set an appointment. That's honestly all that you need to know. I don't care what everyone else in your office is doing. It's how many contacts does it take for Anna Kruger to set one appointment? How many contacts does it take for Claire to set one appointment? That's really all that you need to know. Perfect. I just got really passionate. Claire, anything you want to say in closing? We're actually a little bit over, so we need to get going here. But anything you want to say in closing to everyone out there in lead gen world?
I think just to echo Anna, you know, I find that people, and I do it sometimes too, we want to compare ourselves to other people. And just remember that, you know, even what you call a contact can differ team to team. So track it yourself, know your number and what it takes for you to hit your goal. And don't focus on what everybody else is doing. The numbers they're hitting, because they're different for everybody.
Yeah, and work on affirmations. December is going to be my best month ever. And actually, that's going to make a big difference. So before we go, just a quick reminder, isamapscoaching.com. That's where you can find out about the group program. It's a team contract, so everyone on your team can join. It's not just for one individual. Or there's even mastery coaching through MAPS, which Claire has actually done both. We worked in both avenues together, where it's more one-on-one. The place to find out more is go to isamapscoaching.com, and then you can sign up for a free strategy session, and just hit the button, enter your info. We'll ask you some questions, and then we'll get a time on the calendar. All right, guys, that's it. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Go set an appointment. All right, thanks, Claire.
Thanks, Anna. Have a good day,
Bye.
guys.